Your greatest achievements are often the most sophisticated walls that you have built to keep people from seeing how terrified you actually are. We've turned success, I would say, into a form of social camouflage, a way to signal to the world that we're fine so that no one really asks the difficult questions that might reveal the internal cracks. And in our culture, the winner is granted like a specific kind of immunity. As long as you're producing results, no one will look too closely at your soul. But the price of this immunity is, I think, a devastating, hollow isolation. You're surrounded by admirers, and yet you're completely unknown. You've traded your inner honesty for a public image. And in the process, you've really built a life where the higher you climb, the more alone you become. Welcome back to the show today. I'm glad you've joined us for this conversation because we're touching here on something that many of us feel, but almost none of us are really allowed to talk about. This is Uber Bintegers, a space where we want to dismantle the performance of modern life to find really the path back to alignment and to deep connection, to deep human connection. Our mission here is built on two core principles that really serve our anchor in a world that is constantly trying to pull us off course. The first of these pillars is integrity. And to me, integrity is the discipline of self-honesty, the commitment to making sure that our external world is a true reflection of our internal reality. And the second pillar is intimacy, which is really the radical act of being fully witnessed. It is the courage to let another person see the version of you that doesn't really have it all figured out. And today we're exploring how the very success that we've been told to chase after is often the primary thing that's standing in the way of both of those two core pillars. See, we live in a world that rewards results, but often ignores the individual, the man. And from a young age, many of us were taught that our value is a variable that's based on our performance. We learn that if we are the best at sports, or the smartest in the room, or the top earner in our field, then we will be safe. We believe that achievement is really a form of protection, and we think that if we can just get high enough on that mountain of success, then we will be beyond the reach of judgment or loneliness and the fear of maybe being not enough. But the paradox of high performance is the more success that you acquire or the more successful you become, the more you have to hide. When you reach a certain level of status, you stop now being a person to those around you, and now you start being like a brand or a pillar, right? People stop checking in on you because they just assume that you have everything handled. Your friends, your family, even like your partners begin to rely on this version of you that is strong and capable and bulletproof. And so you become a victim of your own competence. The more you succeed, the more the world expects you to stay on, and the less permission you feel to be human. This, I think, is the origin of the silence that follows success. It's the quiet, heavy pressure to maintain the image at all costs, even if that image is slowly suffocating you. This pressure creates a massive fracture in our integrity, because integrity is really the state of being undivided, right? But the high achiever is almost always split into two. There's a public self, the one that hits the targets and manages a team and commands the room. And then there's the private self, the one that feels anxious and tired and deeply uncertain. Because the world only values public version, we in essence start to prioritize that one over our actual soul. And so we lie to ourselves and say that the performance is the person, right? We stop now being honest about our limits because we're really afraid that if we show any weakness, the whole structure of our lives will come crumbling down. And so we're living in a state of self-betrayal where our accolades are used to silence our internal truth. I mean, think about the sheer exhaustion of having to be impressive every single day. Every interaction now becomes like a transaction where you have to prove your worth. And you can't just be in a room, you have to win in that room, right? This need to perform isn't just a work habit. It's a survival strategy. It's a survival strategy that really bleeds into our personal lives. We bring that same energy home to our partners and to our kids. We become the person who provides and who solves and who leads, but who never becomes simply present. We're so busy maintaining status that we lose our capacity for stillness. We're successful, but fundamentally we are out of alignment. And this loss of integrity leads directly to a loss of intimacy. See, real connection requires a level of vulnerability that is terrifying to a high achiever. Intimacy is intimacy. But successful individuals are terrified of what people might see if they look too closely. So this individual will worry that if people knew about their doubts or their failures, they would stop respecting them. And so they fear that the love and the admiration that they've earned are basically conditional, that they only exist as long as this individual is winning in life. So as a result, they keep everyone at a distance, right? They become a master of surface level connections, and they can maybe talk for hours about strategy, about politics, or about the market, but they really can't spend 5 minutes maybe talking about their own heart. They have a vast network maybe of acquaintances, but no one ever truly knows them. They are maybe the most popular in the room and maybe also the loneliest. It's this relational withdrawal that is like a protective strategy or move, but that becomes a prison in itself. By refusing to let anyone in, they ensure that they will never be accepted truly. They are only accepted for their performance, which means that they never get seen at all for who they truly are. This dynamic creates a specific kind of loneliness that is, I think, unique to those at the top. It's the loneliness of being a symbol instead of a person. When you are the one that everyone looks to for answers, you really don't feel like you have the right to ask questions. When you're the one that everyone relies on for strength, you don't feel like you have the right to be tired. You start to feel like a utility, a tool that people use to get what they want. And because you've built your identity on being useful, you don't know who you are without the results that accompany you. And so now you're trapped by the very success that you worked so hard to achieve. And I mean, the culture only makes this worse, doesn't it? We're surrounded by images of perfection, right? Perfect leaders and invulnerable men. And we're told that the goal is to be the lone wolf, right? The lone wolf who conquers everything in his path. But listen though, the lone wolf is by definition alone. We have internalized a version of masculinity that treats connection as a luxury and vulnerability as a flaw. We've been taught that to be real men means that we have to carry the world on our shoulders without flinching, right? But no one can carry that weight forever. Eventually, the silence becomes unbearable. Eventually, the mask starts to crack. And the problem is that we've mistaken power for presence. We think that by having authority and resources, we are present in our lives. But presence is really more of an internal state. It's the ability to be here, now, like without any agenda. Success often pulls us out of the present into the future. We're always trying to look at the next goal, the next deal, then the next milestone. We're living, if you will, in a state of constant becoming, which means that we never really actually arrive at being. We're physically in the room with our loved ones, perhaps, but our minds are maybe 1,000 miles away, calculating our next moves. This is the profound betrayal of the people who love us most. It's also more so a betrayal of ourselves. And if we want to break this silence, we have to start telling the truth about the cost of our achievement. We have to be willing to admit that our success hasn't really made us happy. It's only made us busy. We have to acknowledge that the armor that we've been wearing is heavy and we're ready to take it off. This is not about giving up our success. It's more so about decoupling our success from our worth. It's about realizing that we are men of value regardless of what we're able to produce or accomplish. Reclaiming our integrity in the face of success really starts with an internal audit, right? So it's here that we have to look at the gap between who we are in public and who we are in private. It's here that we have to ask ourselves, what am I afraid would happen if I just stopped performing? Or what am I trying to protect with all this busyness? This is the work of returning to internal alignment. It's the decision to prioritize our inner peace over our outer or external perceptions that we're trying to keep. It's the realization that a life that's built on a lie, no matter how successful it is really a life of poverty. And this audit requires a level of radical honesty that most high achievers find brutally painful. It means that you're going to admit that you're tired. It means that you're going to admit when you're scared. It means that you're admitting that you may not have all the answers. This is really the restoration of your integrity. And when you stop lying about your reality, it's here that you stop being divided. You become now whole. You find a sense of groundedness that no accolades could ever provide. You realize that your strength does not come from control, but from clarity. And once you've started to find your own truth, you have to find the courage to be able to share that truth now. This is the path to intimacy, right? It's the path that requires you to lower the drawbridge and let someone into your fortress. This is the most difficult thing I would suggest for a successful man to pursue doing, because it involves the risk of being seen as unimpressive, right? But I mean, as we've discussed, being impressive is what made you lonely in the first place. So if you want connection, you have to be willing to be human. Intimacy is built in those moments where we stop leading and we start listening. It's built in those moments where we can admit that we're struggling and in need of some assistance. It's built when we say to our partners, for example, I know I might act like I have everything handled, but truthfully, honestly, I'm actually feeling really overwhelmed right in this moment. And listen, I just need, I needed you to be near me for support. This is the kind of vulnerability that is the ultimate test for a relationship, I would argue. It asks, can you love me, the man who fails as much as the man who's always seemingly on top and winning? And more importantly, can you love me in that messiness? When we bring this kind of honesty into our personal lives, we're now creating a space where real connection can flourish. We stop being a provider, and now we can start being a true partner, a human, a fellow human being. We show our children that it's okay to be imperfect, and we give our friends permission to be real with us. We replace the goal of being admired with the goal of actually being known. We find that the people who truly love us aren't impressed by our titles as much as they're impressed by our presence. They're not impressed as much by our bank accounts as much as by our honesty. And this is the only kind of security I would say that is lasting and sustainable. This shift also changes, if you will, the way we lead in our professional world. So when we stop performing, we now become much more effective leaders. We stop ruling through fear now and start leading through authenticity. And so we create environments where people feel safe to take risks and to admit mistakes because they see us doing the same thing. And we find that we don't need to have all the answers to be respected. We just needed to have integrity, integrity to be real. And this is how we build cultures of trust instead of cultures of competition. Now, we also have to look at the way that we use our success to really avoid the internal work. See, many of us use busyness as a form of anesthesia, if you will. We work long hours and we chase big goals because it keeps us from having to deal with the quiet and uncomfortable parts of our own minds. And if we stop, we might have to feel the loneliness that we've been avoiding. And if we slow down, we might have to even face the grief of the anger, perhaps, that we've been carrying. So success is a very effective way to outrun our own soul. But listen, our soul eventually catches up. The silence of success is a warning sign. It is the sound of a man who has lost his way. So if you if you if you feel like you're living in a soundproof room where no one can really hear your real voice and you can't even hear theirs, it's probably time for you to break that glass. It's time to stop prioritizing your resume over your relationships. It's time for you to find the courage to just man up again. So breaking the silence is a revolutionary act. It goes against everything that our culture tells us about what it means to be a successful man. It requires us now to respect the idea that our worth is perhaps tied to our output. It requires us now to instead choose the messy, unpredictable reality of human connection over this clean and controlled performance of professional achievements. But the reward here is a life that actually feels like it belongs to you. The reward now is a sense of wholeness that no trophy could ever match. Now, listen, this doesn't mean that you stop being ambitious or capable. It just means that you stop using your ambition as a way to hide. See, you can be a high achiever and a high connector. You can be successful, yes, in a world and also be honest in your own heart. But the thing is, you have to be willing to do the work of internal alignment. You have to be willing to show up as your whole self every day, consistently being present in the rooms that you're in. Because we are not we're not just high performing assets. We at the core are human beings with deep needs of connection and profound capacity for truth. So we have to stop acting like we're above the need for love and support. We have to stop using our success as an excuse to be isolated. We have to realize that the most successful thing that we could ever be is our authentic selves. Now, this work of dismantling the silence of success is what we're really all about here at Uber Bintegers. It's about more than just work-life balance. It's more about the integration of our souls. It's about the courage to be known. It's about the refusal to be the silent ones, especially about the parts of ourselves that actually matter, right? And when we choose integrity and intimacy over the accolades and the armor, we here find a power that is far more sustainable than anything we could ever achieve on our own. So I want to invite you to maybe take a look at your life today. Where are you, where are you using your success to hide? Or where have you gone silent because you're afraid that being human may cost you your status? And what would happen if you just took the mask off for, say, 5 minutes and then spoke the truth to someone that you trust? See, these are just suggestions of courageous acts that you could take. That one moment of maybe dropping the performance, it's really the beginning of your freedom. It's the first step back to alignment. It's the moment that you decide that you are more than your results. So if you're feeling the weight of silence today, listen, I want you to know that you're not alone. There is like a whole community of others who are also tired of performance and ready for truth. So I love this community because we're here to support each other in the work of becoming whole. And so we want to be bridge builders, right? Not just builders of empires. We're people who value connection over control. And that's why you're still listening at this point in this episode, for which I'm grateful. So take a breath. Put down the weight of the world for just a moment. Because you don't have to be on right now. You just have to be here. You are still whole. You're still human. And you're still here. You have the right to be known for who you are, not just the goals that you've met. In tomorrow's episode, we're going to maybe pivot into a different kind of challenge. We're going to look at how we navigate the difficult territory of disagreement without losing our connection to the people who we love and care about. We're calling this episode The Art of the Honest No. And it's a deep dive into the power of boundaries in building real intimacy. So I hope you'll join me for tomorrow's episode. Thank you for listening in. Share with me your thoughts down below. I'd love to engage with y'all. See you tomorrow.